Well, with a further test I discovered that the bottom sprocket wasn't turning and the take-up wasn't turning, so I'm just removing the cover, and yes, it is a gear train. So the motor power comes out of here, turns the top sprocket, and then the bottom sprocket, which is this one, and that in turn goes down to the take-up. Now that's not turning properly, and consequently all the others aren't turning properly, so I need to have a look at that. Turning intermittently, just started to turn. I think I'll just clean off some of that muck from there. Not too easy to get to the actual bearings inside the spindle bearings. From this side anyway, I'll have a look, but we'll get some of the muck off with some alcohol and let it run for a while, take it from there. I'm sure that old grease isn't helping, so get as much of that off as I can. It's coming off fairly easily with the isopropyl alcohol. And again, this is the feed side, and that's an intermediate gear that basically just pops off, so we'll clean that up. In fact, all of these gears, except for the two with screws on, basically just pull out, and very clever really, because it means that in the factory they didn't have to worry about screwing them to shafts in exactly the right place. They just drop in, and then the face of each gear runs on that raised portion, which is why there was all the dried up gunk, the old grease on the face of each gear, and we don't need that. And I think this is the stuff that we'll use. Silicon dielectric compound, just the faintest smear of that will do the job of the old grease without getting gunked up over time. Now, adjustable take-up tension, understandable, okay, that makes sense, but I was very concerned that the bottom sprocket, got the projector upside down, so this was the bottom sprocket gear, the bottom sprocket wasn't turning, and the bottom sprocket and the top sprocket absolutely have to turn exactly together. So I was concerned that maybe the gears were stripped or something, but it's cleverer than that. That, driven by this central gear here, and in turn by the gear underneath this brass gear. So the motor power comes out of here, powers the brass gear, that's the top sprocket. Then there's a gear underneath that powers this gear, that powers the bottom sprocket gear. So how can that bottom sprocket gear possibly stop turning? And the answer is, I think, in here, because I suspect that hidden in here is some kind of clutch, so if things seize up, it doesn't rip the gear teeth or strain the motor. So I'm going to have a look in there now. And there's a sprung washer on top that wasn't fully pressed down, suggesting some degree of control. Interesting. So There's a dished shape gear. Let's see if this comes off. Yes, it does. Which goes on there. Is there a key? No. Just sits in there nicely. There we are. I guess just the tension of that adjustable sprung washer holds those two gears together, but allow them to slip if necessary. So basically I'll carry on cleaning out the gunk, give those gears a wash in alcohol, and then a little bit of that silicone compound, and it should make a big difference. It was sounding very laboured when I was running it before, and with all the muck cleared away, it should be a lot better. Let's see what happens. Well, it's still noisy. That's no doubt this board and the table are acting as a soundboard, but a lot less sluggish. And the bottom sprocket and take up are now working. So I think time to put a film on it. Here's one I prepared earlier, about 1974 I think, and I haven't seen it since the 70s. Don't have an empty take-up spool, so I'm using another film. It should be alright, just for the test. See what happens. We've got the overhead lights on to start with.
Yeah.
Robert, I've got a complaint to make about that projector that you sold me the other day.
It works.
You didn't tell me it was working. What kind of workshop hobby project is that if all I've got to do is clean it?
You see, that's the trouble, you see.